joining us. You are watching a demonstrational video on how to properly construct a biosand water filtration system on behalf of Physicians Alliance for Clean Water and Adequate Sanitation and the Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine Peru Global Outreach program. I will be constructing the filter today using the steps laid out in the instruction manual that you should have in front of you today. It is crucial that this manual be present at all times during the construction of these filters, as consistency and efficacy are the most important parts of the final product. And we want to ensure that each filter is built using the same methods and the same steps and the same parts. To begin, I will walk through each and every item that is necessary for the construction of these filters. This can be found in the materials section of the instruction manual. To begin, we need 4 pieces of 1/2 inch PVC female adapters. That is this piece here. You will notice that has a smooth interior surface on one side and then a beveled surface on the other. We have 1/2 inch by close galvanized steel nipple. We have 6 5/8 inch hose washers. One 1.5 inch by 2 feet PVC pipe. One PVC 90-degree elbow. One PVC ball valve drain, 1/2 inch. One lint trapper pre-rolled. One container of silicone adhesive sealant. One pack of CPVC primer, 1 pack of CPVC cement, one brush for the CPVC cement and primer, equipment that you will need. We have 1 electric drill, 1 3/4 inch drill bit, one pair of CPVC PVC cutters, several pairs of work gloves, chalk for marking. You can also use crayon. We have seal tape, 1 pack of PTFE thread seal tape. 1 ruler, preferably stiff ruler. You can also use tape measure if need be. And last but not least, we have 2 pairs of lids for the 5-gallon buckets. 1 5-gallon bucket here, and another 5-gallon bucket here. For demonstration purposes, I have these clear containers that I will be demonstrating how to properly apply the rock, gravel, and sand. These are not needed for the construction and filter. The next section will lay out the steps to properly construct the biosand water filtration system. In this section, we will be walking through the individual steps necessary to construct the biosand water filtration system. I will be using the process manual, and I will go step by step. The first station is drilling. We will drill all the necessary holes, which will be used to put the fittings and the pipings for the final product. In front of me I have one lid, which we will call the connecting lid. I have one bucket, which I will call the bottom bucket, and I have another bucket that I will call the top bucket. These are titles that we will use throughout the remainder of this instructional video, and we recommend that you use these titles when developing your own biosand water filtration system, as it properly denotes where each bucket and lid will go in the final product. You will need your electric drill and the 3/4 drill bit. The first step is to insert the drill bit into the drill and tighten the lid. That's to ensure a nice secure drill. Make sure the drill is properly connected into an outlet, and please ensure the safety of the outlet prior to use. Our drill is in. It's spinning one way, we will switch and spin the opposite way. So after you've ensured proper functioning of the drill, we will first start by drilling the hole for the connecting lid. We found that the easiest way to do that is to take the connecting lid and place it on top of one of the buckets, viewing the lid from the underside, as to avoid any plastic inconsistencies formed during the formation of the lid. That way the drill rests right on that lid, nice and flush. You want to put the drill bit right against the lid, so when you start spinning, it'll drill right through. And we have now drilled a approximately 3/4 inch hole into the connecting lid. Now, to drill the hole for the bottom bucket, we recommend flipping the bucket over and putting it right on its top. Now you are facing the underside of the bottom bucket. Go ahead and place the connecting lid right on top of there. You want to ensure that the same hole in the connecting lid lines up with the hole in the top bucket. Before using the drill to form the second hole, make sure that the plastic from the first hole is cut off of the drill. You can do this by using the pair of cutters at your disposal and discard that extra piece of plastic. Now you have a clear drill ready for the next hole. Now we will drill the hole for the top bucket. We recommend taking your top bucket and flipping it over so that you are facing the underside of the top bucket. And go ahead and take your connecting lid and put it right on top of there. This is to ensure that the hole through the connecting lid lines up with the hole through the top bucket, as these will be connected at a later section. Same process. So find that center piece right in between the hole that you drilled in the connecting bucket and place the drill bit flush against the underside of the top bucket. Press in and drill the hole. We now have two holes, one through the connecting lid and one through the top bucket. They are not yet connected, but we will do so in the next section. As before, cut the extra piece of plastic that may be still attached to the drill bit. Now for the final step in this section, we will drill the hole in the bottom bucket. Start by taking your bottom bucket and the ruler at your disposal, and place that ruler starting from the base of the bottom bucket from the outside. Put it right up against that bucket and measure 8 inches from the base. And using your chalk or crayon, place an X right at that 8-inch mark. That's where the hole is going to go. Once you have that area properly marked, make sure that the bucket handle is flipped to the opposite side where the hole is going to go. For this, you can place that bucket right down on a flat surface or between your legs to make sure that it stays steady while you drill the hole. Place the drill bit right on that mark, and same process as before, start drilling your 3/4. We now have a 3/4 inch hole in the bottom bucket. It should go all the way through, and it should be a clean hole. In this section, we will demonstrate how to apply all fittings to the water filtration system. We recommend that you use a pair of work gloves for this section, as tightening some of the female adapters can take a toll on the hands, and we don't want any injuries during this process. What I'll be using is standard work gloves with grip on the palm. All different types here. We recommend that you have some at your disposal as well. We will start by taking the top bucket, where we have drilled a hole on the underside, and we will flip it over as so. We will take the connecting lid where we drilled a hole right through the middle. We will flip it over and put it flush against that top bucket. So as the top bucket base is against the outside of the connecting lid. We will then take our 1/2 by closed galvanized steel nipple, and we will place 2 5/8 inch washers around the galvanized steel nipple as so. We will take the galvanized steel nipple and we will spin it through the hole in the connecting lid, making sure that the washers end up on the outside of the lid, in the space that's going to go between the lid and the top bucket. So take the galvanized steel nipple with the washers, have your lid ready, find the outside of the lid and take the galvanized steel nipple and put it right through, just like that. So now you have a galvanized steel nipple through the connecting lid with the washers on the outside. Next, once the galvanized steel nipple is through the connecting lid, we will take our silicone adhesive container and we will open it up, ensuring that the tip is exposed and you are able to release the adhesive. And we're going to apply adhesive to the 5/8 washers that were placed around the galvanized steel nipple. Apply it generously all the way around the washers. And once you've applied a generous coat all the way around, we can move on to the next step. The next step is to take the connecting lid, now with an ample amount of adhesive on the outside of the connecting lid. And we're going to place that galvanized steel nipple through the underside of the top bucket so that it is exposed on the other end. Once you have enough galvanized steel nipple through on each side, you're ready to move on to the next step, which is using 2 female adapters and placing one on each side of the galvanized steel nipple, one against the connecting lid, and one through the top bucket, and spin them to secure them tightly in place. we now have the top bucket and the connecting lid connected through a fitting with PVC female adapters on both sides of a galvanized steel nip. Ready to create the fitting for the bottom bucket. So start by taking the bottom bucket and for this step we're going to use another 1/2 by closed galvanized steel nipple, and this time we are going to place one washer around the galvanized steel nipple, like so. And then we are going to insert this galvanized steel nipple from the outside through into the inside of the bottom bucket through the hole that we drilled previously. Expect to meet some resistance here. That is just ensuring that there is a good hold and a good fit between the galvanized steel nipple and the plastic bucket. Once you have enough galvanized steel nipple on each side of the bottom bucket, we will take another 5/8 inch washer and we will apply it onto the galvanized steel nipple on the opposite side of the initially placed washer. So for example, on my bucket, I placed the washer on the galvanized steel nipple prior to inserting it through the hole. So now I have a washer on the outside of the bucket. So I will take this washer and I will place it around the nipple from the inside of the bottom bucket. Now we have our galvanized steel nipple with a washer on each side of the nipple. We now have our galvanized steel nipple through the bottom bucket with a washer on each side. Next, we will take our threading tape and take the tape and simply wrap it around the galvanized steel nipple, giving yourself one layer of tape. Cut it with anything sharp. I use the PVC cutters. Repeat this process on the inside of the bottom bucket, around the galvanized steel nipple. Now we are ready to take two female adapters and secure them, one on the inside around the galvanized steel nipple and one on the outside of the galvanized steel nipple. And that concludes the section on fittings. The next section will demonstrate how to finish all the piping inside and outside of the biosand water filtration system. In this section, we will demonstrate how to properly assemble all the internal and external piping along with the faucet system for the biosand water filtration. For this section, I recommend that you use a similar pair of working gloves as the previous section, or a pair of latex or non-latex examination gloves, just to protect the hands when we go on to use some of the adhesion material, like the CPVC cement and primer, just to give your hands an extra layer of protection. To begin, you will take the 1/2 inch by 2 foot PVC pipe and the ruler and measure out about 6.5 inches from one end of the PVC pipe. And go ahead and mark right at that 6.5 inch line. And using your PVC, CPVC cutters, go ahead and cut straight through at the section you just marked, producing one 6-inch pipe. Next, measure out another segment of 6-inch PVC pipe. You should now have 2 segments of 6-inch PVC pipe. Using your pen, put an X on one side of each of the segments. This will denote the ends of the PVC pipe that are going to be connected using your 90-degree angle PVC elbow. Next, we're going to use the PVC or CPVC primer, and we're going to apply a layer of that primer to each end that you just marked with the X's on the 6-inch PVC pipes. You should now have 2 segments of 6-inch PVC pipe with primer applied as so. Next, we are going to apply a layer of PVC or CPVC cement on top of that layer of primer. Apply the cement generously. You only need to give the primer a few seconds before it dries, at which time you can apply the cement directly over it. Make sure you get a nice layer of cement around that PVC pipe. Also get some on the tip. At all points of connection for that PVC segment. You should now have 2 segments of 6-inch PVC piping with cement and primer. Now you are ready to take your 90-degree angle PVC elbow. Take one of the 6-inch segments, insert it into the elbow, and push as tightly as possible. Do the same thing on the other end with the other 6-inch segment, and push until you meet heavy resistance. You should now have a completed segment of 6-inch PVC piping. We're going to repeat the process for this end of one of the 6-inch segments. It does not matter which one. Repeat the process, apply primer, then apply a layer of cement, and then insert it into the female adapter on the inside of the bottom bucket. you should now have the piece of PVC that we cut and inserted into the elbow should now be glued and inserted into the female adapter on the inside of the bottom bucket. And if you seem to drop or spill any of the cement, just wipe it down before it hardens and you should be good to go. We are now ready to complete the fitting and piping for the faucet that's going to go on the outside of the bottom bucket. To begin, take your 90-degree elbow with the 1/2-inch adapter, 90-degree elbow with a 1/2-inch adapter. This is different than the 90-degree elbow we used for the inside piping of the bottom bucket. You want to take this 90-degree elbow and you want to apply a layer of primer and cement to the 1/2-inch segment, the smaller segment of this female adapter, which is going to go into the faucet, like that. If you are not sure which one is which, try it out before you cement it. Find which one goes into the faucet. That is the end that you are going to cement, prime, and then cement. Once you have that end, go ahead and prime and cement. Once you have primed and cemented, insert it into the faucet and you should now have a finished product that looks similar to this. The 90-degree elbow is glued and inserted into the ball valve PVC faucet. Once that portion is complete, you can go ahead and set that aside and let that harden. And we're going to work on the connector between the female adapter on the outside of the bottom bucket and the faucet. For that, you are going to use one of the residual segments of the 1/2-inch PVC pipe. Be sure not to throw these out when you guys are cutting, because you're going to be using these for a lot of different purposes, one of which is to create this connecting segment. Go ahead and measure out 1 inch on that segment. Mark at the 1-inch mark, and then also mark it at the 2-inch mark. So you should have 2 marks on this segment. That is going to ensure that we have adequate room for the connection. Using the CPVC cutters, go ahead and cut at the 2-inch mark. You should now have a segment of PVC pipe that is 2 inches in length. Pick one end, it doesn't matter which one, just pick one end of this new segment and prime and cement that end. Once you have primed and cemented one end of the 2-inch PVC segment, insert it flush into the female adapter on the outside of the bottom bucket. You should now have about 1 inch of that 2-inch segment inserted into the female adapter of the bottom bucket. We're going to repeat the process for the other end of that 2-inch segment. We're going to prime and cement that tip, and then we are going to insert the opening of the 90-degree angle attached to the faucet that we just cemented together. And we're going to make that final connection wielding one faucet connected to the bottom bucket. Now I have that end primed and cemented. Again, I'm going to take the opening of the 90-degree elbow with the 1/2 inch segment, which has now been attached to the faucet. I'm going to insert it flushly into that 2-inch segment of piping. Now I have my faucet connected to the 90-degree elbow, connected to the female adapter, which has also been connected to the piping on the inside of the bottom bucket. The piping for the bottom bucket is now complete. We can set that aside to rest. The cement and primer need about 24 hours to create a very, very firm bond. We're going to give it that time to rest before running any water through it. You don't necessarily have to give it that time to finish the bucket, but before running any water through, you should allow at least 24 hours for that cement to take hold. In this section, we will demonstrate how to create these large rock, gravel, sand column that will be present in the bottom bucket and will function as the primary filtration system for this biosand water filter. Please be warned that at the end of this section, the bucket is going to be significantly heavier due to the contents of the rock, gravel, and sand. So if possible, please complete these steps on a hard, flat surface. The ground is perfect. And once completed, try to manipulate the bucket as little as possible, because once that column is formed, we really don't want the sand, rock, or gravel moving around. For demonstration purposes, I have clear containers like this that I will have next to the bottom bucket so that the viewers can see exactly how the column will look through these see-through containers, since I can't tip the bucket over every time I add one of the layers. Added a layer of large rock. Which looks very similar to that. So, we want to try to concentrate the large rocks around the PVC pipe that we have currently in the bottom bucket. We want to make sure that no large rocks are plugging the pipe, because this is where water is going to enter. So we want to make sure we're giving that pipe a nice housing with large rocks around it, as so. For the next layer, we are going to add smaller rock or small gravel. Again, using the ruler, you want to measure to an additional 2 inches or a total of 4 inches. demonstrate, I've added a layer of small rock like so, to a depth of approximately 2 inches, and I flattened the top surface to make sure that there are no significant gapes or holes in the small rock layer. Next, we will add the layer of coarse sand to a depth of 2 inches. And we will flatten that coarse sand out on top. Does not need to be patted down, it just needs to be flattened. To demonstrate, we've added a layer of coarse sand to a height of 2 inches. Flattened it out to ensure no significant gapes or holes. If there are, feel free to supplement with additional sand if appropriate. So we now have our large rock, or small gravel, and sand, coarse sand layer. For the final layer, we will add our fine sand. At the end of this step, we will pat down the sand as to ensure a very fine surface. This is where the biosand filtration layer will take place. This is where the bacteria actually grow inside the water filter. So we want to make sure that this segment is as smooth as possible, and we want to create a perfect environment for that bacteria to take hold. And this is the finest sand of the 4 layers. So we really want to make sure that we're flattening it out and evening the surface. Now finally, we recommend around the area where the pipe inserts itself. Inside this bucket, you'll see a pipe just like that, inside the sand layer, extending all the way, of course, to the bottom layer. You want to add an extra about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of sand around that pipe, around that area, and around the center of the sand. So you want to add a little mountain of about 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches of sand right in the middle there and right around this pipe. The reason being, when the water trickles down from the top bucket into the bottom, it's going to come through the hole that we drilled through the center of that connecting lid and through the top bucket. The water is going to fall onto the sand column, and we don't want that water falling to disturb the top sand layer at all. So what we're going to do, instead of using a diffuser plate or any obstructing object to slow the water down, all we're going to do is supplement with an extra layer of sand. The only time the sand will really take a big beating is in the first few filtration processes. After that, there should be a steady stream of water through this water filtration system where we won't have to worry about disrupting the biologic layer at the top of the sand. So for demonstration purposes, I will omit that. That's just kind of like a rule of thumb when putting this column together. That concludes the section on rock, small gravel, and sand formation. Please note that the filter is now significantly heavier, so please try not to manipulate it at all. Try not to bend or shake the bottom bucket significantly. We don't want to disturb the column that we have now created. We want to try to keep that as undisturbed as possible. In this section, we will walk through the steps on adhering all of the fittings to the biosand water filtration system, and finally adhering the top bucket and the connecting lid to the bottom bucket where we have now created the rock, small gravel, and sand layer. For this segment, I recommend continuing to wear gloves, work gloves, non-latex or latex examination gloves work fine. Just protect yourself from any exposure to the silicone adhesive. To begin, we will start with the faucet on the bottom bucket. We will undo the lid on our silicone adhesive. If you find the silicone adhesive is not allowing anything to come out, taking a screwdriver or a nail and puncturing the tip to remove any hardened silicone is a nice cool little trick. Once you ensure that silicone adhesive is coming out of the container, you're ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to take the area that we secured the female adapter to the bottom bucket, and we're going to generously apply a layer of silicone adhesive all the way around, very similar to what we did around the washers of the connecting lid, in between the connecting lid and the top bucket. So apply a very generous coating of silicone adhesive all the way around. I use the dab and move technique, so applying all the way around. Try not to wipe. If you wipe, you may create openings in the silicone adhesive layer. As a result, you should now have a very generous layer of silicone adhesive all the way around the connection of the female adapter to the bottom bucket. We're going to repeat that process around all areas where we secured a female adapter to a washer around a galvanized steel nipple. So inside the bottom bucket, and then also around the female adapter on the underside of the connecting lid, and through the top bucket, as so. Again, just dabbing and moving all the way around. Very generous coat. And continue until you have a layer all the way around. Again, you want to repeat that process for all areas where a female adapter is connected to a washer and is fastened around a galvanized steel nipple. After you have finished applying a layer of silicone adhesive around all female adapters connected to galvanized steel nipples, you want to allow that silicone adhesive at least 24 hours to sit and harden before manipulating it or turning any of the components of the biosand water filtration system. Once that silicone adhesive is complete, you have the option of applying a second layer of silicone adhesive on top of the top layer, or remember, for every layer of silicone adhesive you do add, you need to allow 24 hours for that to rest. Finally, the last layer of adhesive is going to go around the connecting lid on the inside where it will fasten on the top bucket. To demonstrate, we will take our silicone adhesive and open it up. We're going to take our connecting lid connected to the top bucket, and along the rim on the inside, we're going to add a generous layer of silicone adhesive. We now have a very generous layer of silicone adhesive all the way around on the inside of the connecting lid at the attachment site to the bottom bucket. And finally, we're going to take the connecting lid and securely fasten it on the bottom bucket, like so. And press down on all sides to ensure tight hold. Now that the bucket is finally secured and the top bucket is firmly on top of the bottom with a connecting lid in between, we can now do the final touches in the next section. In this section, we will wrap up construction of the biosand water filtration system with a few final touches. And for demonstration purposes, we will omit the placement of the stickers on the outside, and I will demonstrate for you how to insert the lint trapper on the inside of the top bucket through the female adapter. So you will take the lint trapper, which is stainless steel, wrapped just like that, and it will come pre-wrapped. And you want to insert it into the female adapter through the top bucket. You don't want to push this all the way through, you just want to insert it just enough so that a little bit of the lint trapper is sticking out. The patients will have to remove this, clean it out, and insert it every few weeks. So we don't want to make this too hard for them to access when they're trying to take it out. For demonstration purposes, let us act as though this is a female adapter. You will take the lint roller and insert it through the hole of the female adapter of the top bucket, and continue to push it through until it is sticking out about that much. You don't need to go any further than that. It'll be coming out of the bottom end, but that is not going to be accessible by the patient since the top bucket is now secured to the bottom bucket with that silicone adhesive. We just want to make sure that the lint trapper is just deep enough so the patient can continue to grab, take it out, clean it, put it back in as needed. Inside the lint roller packet, you will find lint roller pre-rolled just like that with a set of zip ties. Take the zip tie and put it through the stainless steel lint roller and try to get it through as many layers as possible before it comes out on the other end, just like that. And then close off the zip tie. The final result should look like that, with your lint roller attached to the zip tie, not all the way closed, just partially closed. This way, when the lint roller is placed through the CPVC, one end, the end open to the top bucket, contains this zip tie where the patients can grab and pull the lint roller out and place it accordingly, and so it makes it a little harder to lose. And that concludes our demonstration video on how to properly construct a biosand water filtration process. This video was made possible by Physicians Alliance for Clean Water and Adequate Sanitation, the Michigan State University College of Osteopathic Medicine, Peru Global Outreach Program, and all of our sponsors. Thank you for watching.